Hello, Cancer friends, and welcome to your November 2025 Tarot and Numerology reading, plus detailed Vedic astrology forecast, including the November 5th the November 5th full moon and the November 19th new moon. So Cancer, November has a lot of wonderful activations for you. Good news, generally speaking, in the health, creativity, and you have this wonderful water sign trine activating your lucky first house, your lucky fifth house, and your lucky ninth house. We'll get into that a little more in the astrology portion. We're going to start with the tarot and numerology first. And if you are new to Vedic Sidereal Astrology, welcome. A quick and easy way to know your Vedic Sun Sign is if you were born from July 16th to August 16th, then you are Cancer Sun as per Vedic Sidereal Astrology. And this sidereal zodiac is based on accurate real-time positions of the stars and planets. So you may find, even if it seems a little weird at first, you may find that these transits using accurate real-time data give good predictions for how the subtle energies of the planets affect you. If you're new to the channel, welcome to Anastasia Tarot and Vedic Astrology, where I help you navigate the cosmic currents and surf the planetary wavelengths with a little more ease and grace. This November 2025 Tarot and Astrology forecast is for Cancer Rising, Cancer Moon, and Cancer Sun. Chapters are time-stamped in the description if you like to skip ahead. And as always with collective readings, take what aligns, leave the rest behind. And now let's get started with your tarot and numerology. Okay, Cancer, I have pulled 6 cards for you. And the first thing that's jumping out at me, we have 2 nines. We have this 9 of bâton, and we have 9 of cups. So Cancer, not only do you have these 2 nines in the cards that I pulled, but also when I did your numerology, all the number cards added up to 27, which 2 plus 7 equals 9, and that's the Hermit card. So there is a 9 theme going on for you, a cycle of completing a couple things. We'll get into that in a minute. Oh, and Cancer, I forgot to say all those 9s combined, all those 9s in your tarot reading combined with this 4th house activation. You could be seeing some kind of home project coming to a close, coming to completion. So for Cancers involved in real estate, it might be, closing a contract. For Cancers who are involved in some kind of home remodel or home project like that, it could be bringing that project into completion. Now, looking at your timeline of 3 of coins in the past, this also came up for Taurus. So Cancer, you have a similar challenge as Taurus. You may have some plans and things that you're really attached to. You planned them to go a certain way. And so in the past, this is saying, yeah, that was then, this is now. So going forward into, the present and future, things may not be going exactly as you planned them. Now, Cancer, November is looking like a really lovely month. I'm glancing over here at your charts. You've got, Venus in Libra in your 4th house, giving a benefic activation for your home, the people, the near and dear ones you share your home with, mother, vehicles. So this is a really lovely activation for Cancer. And then you've got 5th house activation, creativity and children. And this lovely water trine is happening, right? We've got Exalted Jupiter is in your first house. Mars is strong in Scorpio in your lucky fifth house, and Saturn is in your lucky ninth house. So this trine of, 159 of all the water signs and, Jupiter, benefic Jupiter. So Cancer, really a lot of good vibes, planetarily speaking. Just be willing to let some things go and let some things complete. Now, in the present, we have the Magician. So as you're letting go, maybe plans aren't really going quite the way you thought they were. The Magician invites you to be flexible and, think of, kind of some out of the box thinking. Magician also with Mars and Mercury together in the fifth house. Definitely be strategic about your communication, Cancer. Mars really energizes the fifth house, but having that warrior planet with the communicator planet can be, a little bit rough. And this Magician is really encouraging you to be strategic, smart, and creative about your communication, flexible and creative about your communication. Now, in the future is this Nine of Wands or Nine of Bâtons. And so you may have a little bit of a burden or a feeling, and maybe this is arising from, you had plans that looked really good and, everything should be smooth sailing. And, it could be that you have to let go of some of those plans and things are a little bit more of a burden. However, really no malefic cards here. The overall vibe of your cards is very positive or neutral. And so now we're getting into advice of the cards. What to avoid is Five of Wands. So definitely avoid conflict and fighting, avoid power plays, and what to lean into is this Nine of Cups. And this Nine of Cups has been showing up for a couple of other readings as well. So this is one of those completion. So basically, if you are, in negotiations with anyone for anything, or, in your communication with people, really don't go the direction of fighting or conflict, especially like with your kids, with that Mars in your fifth house. Just don't go in the direction of fighting and conflict. Yes, sometimes you need to set boundaries, but this Nine of Cups as what to lean into is your wish is going to come true. Now, this kind of unifying card is the King of Cups. For some Cancers, this is actually going to be a man in your life. It could be a man that you share your home with, a King of Cups. And if that's not hitting for you, like there's not really a man that you're asking about or, pertinent to the situation, Cancer, King of Cups is very much your card. What is Cancer, right? It's a water sign. It's emotional. King of Cups has to do with emotional mastery. So this King of Cups working with the Magician card here, definitely Cancer, when it comes to communication and dealing with your near and dear ones, really lean into your emotional maturity, your emotional wisdom, your emotional intelligence, and allow that to inform your communication with your near and dear ones. And, so that you're more strategic and just really using your emotional intelligence. Now, Cancer, although you do have a lot of activations for your home life and, for Cancers with children, your home life, your children, definitely with this Hermit card here, Cancer, get some alone time. Hermit also showed up for Gemini. It's different for you how this card is showing up for you, Cancer. It's showing up in a different way than it did for Gemini, but part of the message is the same, especially since You do need to exercise emotional intelligence and emotional mastery in your communication. Getting some alone time to meditate, to, getting some hermit time. Cancer, you need a little time in your shell. Okay, that's really going to help. And especially if things are really hectic around the holidays, with a lot of stuff happening with family and kids around the holidays, and you're hosting people in your home, just get some alone time. And then if you do have any spiritual teacher, part of that lucky trine activation of all your water signs in your, first house, fifth house, ninth house, that Saturn in the ninth house, if you have a guru or a teacher, or maybe even you're studying things like tarot and astrology and mystical topics like that, esoteric sciences, anything like that, putting some time into being alone and studying, or spending some time with your guru or teacher, that's really going to help, keep your emotional intelligence as being, informing your communication, and really enjoying these lovely transits that you've got happening for the month of November. So Cancer, if you are enjoying this video, please do like and subscribe. It's a small channel. Every little bit helps. And now we're going to get into your astrology transits, house by house, planet by planet. Okay. Hello, Cancer friends, and welcome to your November 2025 Vedic astrology reading. Cancer, you've got a lot of really cool things going on with your chart this month that we'll get into. And first of all, this reading is for Cancer rising, Cancer moon, and Cancer sun. Now, if you are just getting into Vedic astrology, you're new to Vedic astrology, the quick and easy way to know if you have Cancer sun is that the dates for Cancer sun are July 16 through August 16. So if your birthday is July 16 through August 16, your sidereal Vedic sun sign is Cancer. And just remember that the sidereal zodiac is based on the actual fixed positions of the stars and constellations, whereas tropical astrology is a symbolic system that is tied to the seasons here on Earth. Okay, now let's get into it, Cancer. We are going to start your horoscope looking at the full moon on November 5th, and then we'll get into the new moon on November 19th. So first of all, Cancer, you're continuing this lovely, lovely exalted Jupiter in your first house. This is just an auspicious, lucky placement for you. Jupiter is in Punarvasu Nakshatra, which is itself a Jupiter-ruled nakshatra. So there's even kind of a double Jupiter influence. So if you've been having health problems, anything of that nature, Cancer, you may really see your health improved, or just generally your luck in general improves by having benefic Jupiter exalted over your first house. And Jupiter is casting its benefic gaze on your fifth house of creativity and children, and also on your ninth house of spirituality, guru, and father. We'll get into those in a moment. The other nice thing about this Jupiter in your first house is that it's forming Hamsa Yoga. This elevates your whole chart, for the whole month of October. Now, Jupiter will go into retrograde. We'll talk about that in the second part of your horoscope. But in the beginning of the month, Jupiter is direct. It's forming this Hamsa Yoga, and that is especially beneficial to Cancers who are working in the teaching profession, if you are a teacher, an educator, if you work as a counselor or guide, any sort of teaching or guiding profession. If that is your work, Cancer, you're going to benefit your career. Your work will benefit from this exalted Jupiter in your first house. All Cancers will benefit somewhat, but specifically those careers. And then Cancer, it just gets better. You have exalted Venus in your 4th house, Libra, and this is really quite lovely. Venus enjoys being in the 4th house. She does very well there. Sun is in the 4th house. 4th house is the house of mother, home, vehicles, and it's your natural house, Cancer. So having this 4th house activation with Venus and the Sun together in 4th house Libra, quite nice for you. And Venus itself forms a Malavya yoga, and this Malavya yoga is in effect from pretty much the whole month of November, from the 1st to the 25th. And so for all Cancers, this is just going to elevate your charisma, your enjoyment of life. And now with this Jupiter in the 1st house and Sun in the 4th house, Cancers, if you are working in real estate or you work at home, if your career has anything to do with houses and homes, that may also benefit from this, Sun and Venus activating your 4th house. Generally speaking, you may feel at least in the first part of November, Sun is going to move, but in the first part of November, you may very much feel a desire to beautify the home, some type of home beautification, things of that nature. Now, do watch out for your budget, Cancer, because you have this Ketu on the 2nd house. Now, Ketu does well with Leo, but Ketu is a disruptive planet, and with Rahu on the 8th house, your finances may be somewhat fluctuating, and especially joint finances. You may have, with Rahu here on the 8th house, you may have a lot of focus on joint finances. But again, the nodes always add a little bit of a chaos factor. So again, if you find yourself in home beautification projects, something of that nature, just be a little bit conservative as far as staying on budget. And this moon in your 10th house, if you do any sort of full moon type of meditation or practice, this is quite nice either for doing some type of full moon meditation, either in support of your career or in support of your home life. And of course, if you work at home, it could be both. Now, let's touch upon this 12th house activation that is catching this nice benefic gaze from Jupiter. Excuse me, this 5th house activation. So Mars is in its strength, right? Mars is very strong in Scorpio. That's his domicile. Mercury, not so happy in Scorpio. Mercury pretty much doesn't like to be in Scorpio, but this Mars-Mercury conjunction continues to highlight the themes of learning to communicate strategically, learning to set boundaries with negotiation, and again, strategic communication. That's really your buzzword for November and for this combination of Mars and Mercury together. Now, this 5th house is your house of creativity and children. So for Cancer creatives, again, you're catching this benefic gaze from Jupiter. Mars is going to add a lot of vitality and energy to your creative projects. Mercury also does well in the 5th house for creatives. Like I said, Mercury does not like being in Scorpio, but for creatives, you may find more emotionality in your work. And for Cancers that have kids, again, with Mars in the 5th house, you do want to watch out for, aggression, whether your kids are having a temper or whether they're getting on your nerves. I know that's like always for everyone, but just be aware that Mars in the 5th house can, stir up some aggression, irritation, anger issues with kids. And again, with Mercury here, strategic communication. You're going to get much further with strategic communication with your kids. And that has this nice support from Jupiter that can really help it go well if it seems kind of difficult or, fraught or explosive or anything of that nature. Jupiter's really going to calm things down and help it go well. And also just Venus and Sun in your 4th house, this really can support enjoyment with your near and dear ones, enjoyment of your home. And Cancer, I know you are all about the home, so this is a really lovely enjoyment of your 4th house. Now, we touched upon Rahu being activating this 8th house. So again, it may not be the best time for, loans, joint finances. You may be very focused on those things, but just be aware that Rahu, Rahu Ketu, those nodes always bring a chaos factor. And the other thing here is if you are tempted to be less than honest, Cancer, if you're, negotiating some kind of joint finances, loan, whatever that is, if you're tempted to be less than honest or bend the truth, don't do it. Just, be honest, keep everything above board. And by the same token, if you are in negotiations with another person and you start to get an intuition that they are not being completely honest and transparent or above board, again, you want to pay attention to those intuitions because that is, Rahu can bring those sort of factors into the 8th house. Retrograde Cancer continues in your 9th house. This retrograde is going to end November 27th. So this may have been a time of rethinking your spirituality, Cancer. Maybe you follow a different guru now, or you found a new guru, or you're thinking about returning to a spiritual practice you did in the past. This is continuing. And now let's move forward to the November 19th new moon. Okay, Cancer, we are looking at the chart for November 19th new moon. Now, as you can see, Jupiter is still in your 1st house, but it has gone into retrograde. And Jupiter went into retrograde on November 11th. So right around the middle of the month. Now, Jupiter is such a positive, benefic planet that this retrograde may actually even be a lucky thing for you. It may bring around some opportunities, maybe that you couldn't take advantage of the opportunity the first time it presented itself, and now you're going to get a do-over. So unlike some of the other planets, Jupiter being so benefic, the Jupiter retrograde can actually bring you new opportunities for expansion or, kind of do-overs. An opportunity repeats itself or something of that nature. So this remains, Jupiter is still in exaltation here. It's still creating that lovely Hamsa Yoga. But the Hamsa Yoga effects are a little bit diminished by the Jupiter retrograde. Venus is continuing this Malavya Yoga in your fourth house. So again, you know, November can be the holiday season, or starting the holiday season for people, you know, viewers in the United States. And so this can be, you know, really nice for, you know, if you're preparing to have guests in your home, and you're doing any kind of home beautification. Venus really supports that. And that Malavya yoga is in effect through the 25th. So this is just adding a nice feel-good factor to your experience of your home life and your near and dear ones. Woo, Cancer, a lot of fifth house activation happening in this in this new moon. So if you do any kind of spiritual new moon practice where you like to, you know, meditate, plant the seeds that you wish to see grow for the next 2 weeks, you know, or longer, if you're working with a longer time frame, this new moon in the fifth house is really a lovely time to plant seeds having to do with your creativity, creative projects, children, you know, if you are trying to conceive, start a family, this could be a nice time to, you know, kind of plant those seeds, as it were. And so with Sun, Mercury, and Mars all activating your fifth house, really gives a boost to the creativity and your creative expression. Now, Mars is very strong, right? Mars is in Scorpio, so he is very strong in his own sign in this fifth house. This can give a lot of vitality to Cancer creatives. It's going to give, you know, vitality, motivation, inspiration for your creative projects. Now, for some Cancers, this may be a lucky combination for, you know, business and investment, but you want to be real careful with that, because with Mercury retrograde, that's, you know, that's a little iffy there. And then we've talked about how K2 is on your house of finance, your second house of finance, and your eighth house of joint finances. So there may be some indications toward, you know, financial investment, financial growth here, but again, be very careful, really look at your own chart, talk to your financial advisor, because with Mercury retrograde and the nodes, you do want to just really use a lot of caution about that. But that being said, for Cancer creatives, really lovely time. If you have children, your focus with this, you know, Venus in the fourth house and then Sun and Mars in the fifth house, it could really put a lot of energy and a lot of focus on your children. And again, with, you know, the lesson with Mars and Mercury is, you know, we've been talking about that strategic communication. So, you know, use strategic communication with your kids. Now, with Mercury retrograde, this could be, you know, that you are finding that you have to tell your kids things twice, and you're probably laughing at me because you're going, really, only twice? I have to tell my kids, you know, 10 times and they still ignore me. But you get the idea. You know, this Mercury retrograde can cause some do-overs, and so especially in the house of children, and especially with Mars, you know, there can be needing to do things over, needing to, you know, repeat communication, you know, repeatedly, multiple times, especially when it comes to your kids. And to another extent, Cancer creatives, you may find that you're, with this Mercury retrograde, that you're rethinking, or, you know, hopefully not having to redo creative work that you've already done. Hopefully it's not that. Hopefully it's just kind of, you know, rethinking some of your creative ideas. And, you know, by the end of the month here, we do have 3 planets are in retrograde, right? And these are all your trine planets, Cancer. So your first house, Jupiter's in retrograde, your fifth house, Mercury is here in retrograde, and your ninth house here, Saturn is in retrograde. So again, you probably, I'm going to say this is not necessarily the time to launch new ventures, Cancer, with these three planets in retrograde, but they are in your trine houses. They're in your lucky houses. So you may find that this actually, in a weird way, works for you, that you get some second chances to do things that maybe didn't work out the first time, and it, you know, works out better doing it the second time. And, you know, also for Cancer students with this, you know, this trine energy here, because Jupiter's casting a trine. If you felt really burdened by your studies, or you would like even had to take a class over or do a project over, something of that nature, this could actually work in your favor. You know, maybe you get a class that you wanted to take, but it was full, and now, you know, now you're able to get into it. So there can be, with, you know, with these retrograde planets all in your trine houses, again, not necessarily the time to start new projects with all this retrograde energy, but it can be that doing things over, in fact, worked to your advantage. So just a little something to keep in the back of your mind with that. And also, Cancer, from November 1st to the 23rd, you have a Sarasvati yoga in effect, and this is also going to just give a subtle luck factor for Cancers who are involved in the creative fields and Cancer students. This Sarasvati yoga enhances your writing abilities, your studying abilities, and, you know, to a lesser extent, all of your creative and artistic abilities. So Cancer, that is your November 2025 horoscope. If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. This is a tiny little channel, and every like, every subscription helps it grow. Wishing you the blessings of good health, peace, and prosperity for November 2025. Namaste.